Hey everyone, Richard here from Design and Built. Today we're extending the dash on my Barra powered 4580 and we're also fitting some WRX seats. Let's get into the build log now. So pretty much everything's back together right now and we're starting on the interior, so very exciting times for me. The first job on the interior is the seats. So as you'd remember from previous episodes, I've put a custom floor in, so I'm going to have to make a custom seat frame to suit. I'm going to over-design this and overbuild it because obviously I don't want my my seats coming out in an accident or anything like that. So everything's going to be a lot thicker gauge than it needs to be, but it's really a low weight penalty to pay for safety. The plan is to build a frame that goes from one side to the other, and I can mount the seats and a center console too. I tried to figure out which seats to get for ages, and I ended up with the WRX seats. So these are pretty good value for money. And most importantly, for an FJ cab, they have a really skinny back. So the actual distance between there and there is really skinny. And it's really important because this cab is not very long at all. Common mod, if you're tall, is to extend the cab just so you get better ergo. I guess for me, I'm pretty average at 178. So, I can get a reasonably comfortable sitting position. When you're wheeling hard, you kind of want a little bit of side bolster action just to hug you in the seat, but I am going touring in this vehicle as well, so it does really need to be comfy for long distances. So I've literally been sitting in seats, in bucket seats, and this is sort of where I ended up. So it's sort of a hybrid, I guess, of both. It's not a full bucket seat, but it does have some side bolstering, which is going to be good when we're wheeling hard. So I think it's a pretty good value for money seat. So this seat frame is a pretty simple piece of fab. I've just drawn it out. I'm going to get some brackets laser cut, otherwise I'd be cutting 16 of each by hand, so I just can't be bothered. I haven't got them cut yet, but they're going to come later in this video. So the first job is to make the frame, so I'm sort of going to make something like this, probably extend the ends, which I haven't got in the drawing here. Put some miters in so it looks pretty. So I've got all my dimensions. I've literally been sitting in this cab for hours just trying to get the ergo right. At the end of the day, it's only got to suit me. Obviously, it's got to suit the passenger as well, but the passenger side isn't as much of an issue. I think it's pretty easy to get comfy there. It's just more so about the pedals on the driver's side. So, I've figured out by stacking the seats on wooden blocks and just trying different combinations of what I thought was comfortable. I'm going to go ahead and cut the blue bar now. So it's 30 by 30 by 3 mil. And then, we'll be able to mock it all up and see how we go. Okay, so you can see here, these are still up on wooden blocks, but by the time we add the brackets in to the top and to the floor, that's going to give us the 45 mil or thereabouts back. So the seats are pretty much in a representative position. I've got my center console / fridge. It's a Brass Monkey one. It's pretty reasonable. It's got a wireless charger in it, so I think you can fit a few cans in there, which would be fantastic for road trips. So I've got to mount that up as well, but it's actually a really nice height for an armrest as well, so it's going to make the long drives that little bit better. I guess, that's pretty much all I want to show you for now. So the job's sort of half done. I've got to get some more brackets and finish it off. One of the big things I've been struggling with is trying to package an air conditioner. This one here is a Vintage Air Retro Spares one. And I think it's a pretty reasonable unit for the money. So this is a heater and AC all in one, which would be really nice. So I guess these are really powerful units. I think they're designed for, big American style of cars. In this cab, it shouldn't be an issue because it's such a small cab. It's going to do really well. I guess one of the big things I've been struggling with is to package it because of the ZF 6-speed and the Barra, and I've mounted it so far back, which is going to improve the handling, but it's made it a real packaging nightmare for me. So I've sort of been looking at alternative options. I have been looking at the standard 45 air conditioner as well. The thing with the 45 air conditioner is it has a heater in the middle, aircon on that side, so it actually takes up a fair bit of space also. So for packaging, I'm sort of thinking stick with what I've got, but actually bring the dash out a little bit. So I've been thinking about this for a long time now. So I'm thinking about putting an extra 50 mil in here. And you'll see maybe from the shots before, but my knee is nowhere near this spot. So 50, 70 mil here would not matter at all. So I guess, I'm just trying to figure out how to do it, like unpick all these and sort of make an L bracket. But for the doors, so this angle here mates with the doors, so I can't come straight back. I can't just put material in here. I've sort of got to come back on the angle if you look down, so I've got to come back on that angle there. So I guess my first port of call with something like this is make it out of cardboard. I mean, even if I did it in CAD, I don't think it's really going to help me. It really needs to be, me sitting in the car, checking the ergo, and now my seats are in the right position. I can actually do this. So I'm going to go ahead and make it out of cardboard. I guess the thing is, I want it to look like a 40, but it is definitely not a stock 40 at all. So I just wonder how much you're going to notice this. I guess we'll see once it's made out of cardboard, and then probably sheet metal in a few hours. I've made up the cardboard template for where the dash is going to be, so that's extending it out 70 mil. Okay, so you can see the aircon can fit fine, and there should be some clearance on the back wall. So I'm pretty stoked with that. It's going to be tight in here for the gear shifter and then the transfer case lever as well, but I'm sure we can make it work. So I guess, I think I'm going to go ahead and do it. It seems easy, but like anything, it's going to take ages. There we have it. The dash is removed. So it actually warped up in the middle a little bit, and maybe I should have braced it. I'll put the windscreen back on to get it all in place, and I'm sure I'll be able to figure it all out. I've also braced the steering column as well, just a piece of blue bar with a couple of tacks, just because the dash actually has a little bracket under here that holds it in the right orientation. So it is pretty solid, but I mean, just an extra brace always helps. Got to go ahead and make some patch panels now, so I'm going to head down to LCS 4x4, make some patch panels, and then come back and we'll sort out this dash. So I've welded these panels in here. I'll have to figure out the bottom a bit later. I just couldn't figure it out with the cardboard template because I don't have the dash on yet. So the next job is putting the dash on. And obviously these are in on an angle to accommodate the doors, as I mentioned earlier. So I guess the big thing is that I've got to shorten the dash, which is a real pain. So let me run you through what has to happen. I've actually got to take 32 mil out of each side. Just because of the angle. So I've got to make two cuts, shorten it, which I'm going to go ahead and do. Look, I want to retain these stock curves if possible. I also want to put in a Haltech IC7. This is my sophisticated CAD template. But we're just going to make it work. So there's not going to be a whole lot left of this stock dash, and maybe I should be making a new one, but at the same time, I kind of want it to have the original curves. If I just made a flat sheet, I don't think it'd look very good. So that's sort of why I'm going down this route. So yeah, overall, pretty stoked with the result. So I've got this nice ledge up here that I can put a cup holder in. And I guess it's a really good spot for keys and wallet and that sort of stuff as well. So I'm going to have to do a lot more cutting and shutting of this. I'm going to make a removable panel here in the future, but I'll get my doubled in mounted. I'll get my AC mounted before we go ahead and do that. My Haltech IC7 arrived from BARRALandCruiser.com, so cheers Chris and Mez for helping me out with this one. So I've mounted it to the dash. I've just used some custom brackets at the back, and then I guess I've folded this up by hand, so this is no CAD and laser. It's just a purely hand-folded part. One of the big reasons I picked a IC7 is it means that I can get all my gauges onto this screen. The old school dash wouldn't have allowed it. Although it looks pretty cool, it's definitely not as functional. So the Haltech is very functional, and then I might put some additional gauges in here or even in here. I want fuel gauges and then a dual battery gauge at the very minimum. So by picking this, it means the wiring to all the auxiliary gauges is going to be much, much easier and much, much more compact. And I guess when you're thinking about the dollar value, if I had to buy like 10 aftermarket gauges, it's probably the equivalent of a Haltech. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good move. It doesn't look original. That's the only downfall, I guess. One of the other big reasons I did this dash extension, and I didn't really mention it earlier, is that I've got so many modern electronics going in behind it, like the aircon, doubled in, all the computers and stuff. So I've seen a few completed 4580s, and the wiring is really tight, especially when you start fitting all the accessories that these cars weren't designed to do. So there wasn't much space, you know, originally behind here, and now we've added a whole heap of space. So now it is time to finally mount these seats. In the time that it took me to do the dash, the laser cutting got done. So there's 16 of these. So these are going to go on the bottom of the blue bar. And then these ones here are the actual mounts on the bottom of the seat. So one is going to be welded to the blue bar. One is going to be welded to the seat like that with an M12 through the middle. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and start welding them to the seats. So I just finished up TIGging all the seat brackets, as you can see. Now the reason I did that is because I designed these seat brackets with minimal tolerance. So if I dropped a MIG bead in there, then I wouldn't have been able to put the seat on. So yeah, and that's just to get the brackets as low as possible. So then I can get more space under the frame, basically. There are definitely different bracket designs, and maybe we'll talk about that later, but I guess the long and short of it is these were the simplest to make and come up with a, you know, an actual mounting system for the seats, and it's going to be really easy to disassemble and assemble and take the seats out. So I guess that was primarily what drew me to this design. Obviously I could have, you know, put a bolt vertically, but then actually making and designing a bracket would have been a lot harder. So I think, you know, just this is a pretty good trade-off. I am probably losing out on about 35 mil that if I'd otherwise designed a bracket to take a bolt vertically, I could have got. But yeah, so I could have, maybe I could have got another 35 mil of space under here, but I think this is going to be about 100 mil draw. If I was to put drawers underneath, which I'm undecided on yet, but I think that'll definitely be after the project is done. So I've actually TIGged on all the seat ones as well. I sort of did it off camera, but yeah, they're all TIGged, and when I say TIGged, everything's done from both sides. You might struggle to see there, but yeah, everything is passed from that side and passed from underneath as well. So these should be plenty strong enough to resist the force of an accident, basically. That's a wrap on the seats and the seat frames. These are really easy to unbolt and assemble and disassemble, as I might need to get the seats out for maintenance at some point. Obviously that's going to change if I have to add a drawer. I'm thinking about welding all the nuts and making them captive, and same with the actual seat frame bolts as well. So we have 16 M12s holding the frame down and then 4 on each seat, so that should be plenty strong enough if we were ever in an accident, which obviously I don't want to do, but it's got to be built just in case you are. So all of these bolts go into a bar basically. So I guess there's blue bar running all the way underneath, and same on the middle as well. You can maybe you can see the bolts, but yeah, I fully intend to weld this plate on next time the chassis is flipped over. So yeah, that should really be plenty strong enough to you know, in case of a rollover. Pretty much all I want to say for the seats. Probably the end of this episode. So the next jobs are trans tunnel, roof console, and then a bunch of other accessories as well, but I might split it over a couple of episodes. That brings us to the end of the episode. We're actually at the 12-month mark for the build now. So I know in the first episode I said I'd aim to have it done in 12 months, but it's blowing out as it was always going to. My mindset's changed a lot over the last 12 months. At the start, I was sort of trying to get it on the road pretty quickly, but now I'm sort of the opinion, do it once, do it right. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like this dash that, you know, I wasn't planning on doing, but I'm glad we're doing it and the car's going to be better as a result. On the next episode of Design and Build, we actually 3D scanned a rolling chassis, and I get to show you what we can do with the 3D scan data and how I'm going to use it on my build. If you like this content, don't forget to hit like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Cheers.